Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. And listen, a couple games into the Premier League season now. Champions League has kicked off. Carabao Cup has kicked off. I thought, what better time to sit back, take stock of the Spurs team and rank them in a tier list. Now, of course, join the conversation. Have I ranked players too high? Have I ranked them too low? Let me know where you would place them in this tier list as well. Get involved in the comments. Let's get into the video. Now, as you can see here, I've got a couple of categories, and the way I've split them up is right at the top, we've got the pillars, the guys who are the foundations of this team and who this team essentially should be built around. Then you've got the regulars, the guys who are going to be coming in, week out, competing for starting spots, but make a difference in that starting lineup. Then you've got the fillers, the guys who come in when players are out injured, those regulars that we talked about. But also in the cup games, when we're rotating, those guys were happy for them to come in. Then you've got the room to improve. The guys who we know haven't really hit the standard, haven't met the expectations that we've set up for them, but now have room to improve. And I feel like the clear out aisle, the last category, is pretty much self-explanatory. It's time to go, lads. So, who are we putting in first? And I feel like the pillars, there's a couple that I can easily chuck in straight away. And that is Christian Romero, our captain, and Mickey van der Ven, his centre-back partner. Those two, for me, the yin and yang, the foundations and the pillars of our defence, in my opinion. It's so unfortunate that over the last 2 seasons, we haven't really been able to see them week in, week out play together because of injuries, whether it's Mickey van der Ven being out with a hamstring injury, Romero with knee issues. But finally, I feel like this season, we might see the best version of both of them. And I feel like we know how good they are. But for me, it's outside of Tottenham. I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate these two. I feel like people still look at Romero as this hothead red card waiting to happen. When in actual fact, over the last 2 years, I feel like he's improved massively in terms of his disciplinary record, his maturity, which is why he's the captain now. But then I think as much as he is an aggressive front foot defender that I love as well, proper my playing style type of centre-back, I do think his passing does get overlooked. And I think sometimes he's almost like a midfielder masquerading as a centre-back because the range of his passing, the accuracy of his passing, and the frequency in which he does it in as well, I think Ange relied on that so much in terms of his build-up. And I feel like this season, because we've kind of gone away from that building up at the back as much, you're having to go direct a little bit more. And you're seeing that with Romero's passing, it is creme de la creme, mate. And then Mickey van der Ven, you guys know how I feel about Mickey van der Ven. He's becoming one of my favourite Tottenham players, I'll be honest with you. The uniqueness of his skill set, in my opinion, I've always said, he's the ultimate insurance policy in terms of that back line. No centre-forward can go 1v1 to my keeper without having this man chasing you down in about 3 seconds flat. There's I always say there's third party and full cover. There's comprehensive cover. And then there's Mickey van der Ven insurance cover. That type of cover you don't find very often. How many centre-backs in the world can you name as quick as this man? Not many in the history of the game, let alone currently. So for me, those two, very easy to put in as 2 pillars of our team. Do you know who else I think is an actual pillar but gets overlooked very often? Pedro Porro, who similarly, I feel like his passing range with Romero is an absolute weapon for me. I think after now, obviously with Trent Alexander having left the league, I think he's got the best passing from a defending perspective. The variation of his passing is the thing that's most impressive for me. The way he can spin the ball and curl it back post if he needs to. The way he can float one in and just kind of skim under it. He can do the grass cutter. He can do the power cross. He can do the outside of the boot. There's so many different types of passes I've seen this guy do where I'm just like, fucking hell, he is a proper one-man weapon. And it's almost like having another creative player but in a different area of the field. And I've grown to love him. I remember guys like Sherwood were quick to rule him out when he first signed. But I know what I put up with before that. The years of Aurier. The years of Emerson Royale. The years of Trippier. I ain't forgotten those. And Pedro Porro, I just want to say thank you for recovering some credibility to that position. So for me, those 3 are absolute locks in terms of the pillars and who this squad needs to be built around. And yes, that is 3 of the back 4. Ooh, shall I leave it as that or shall I throw in one more? You know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put Xavi Simons in there because very rarely do I feel like Spurs have gone out and signed a ready-made star who still hasn't even hit the peak of their career. I feel like the last time we tried that was with Ndombele, and we know how that went. We got our fingers burnt, and I always was worried that we might not dibble dabble into those type of caliber players again. But this summer, we actually did it. Xavi Simons for me is Netherlands international. Proved himself over the last 2 or 3 years at RB Leipzig, at PSV, what he can really do. The creativity, we've already seen it early doors. That game against Brighton, he came on in the 10 position, completely changed the game. On his debut, we saw what he can do from set pieces, getting an assist in his first game. I feel like I've really liked what I've seen early doors. I know we've seen him in an unfamiliar left-hand side position, but I do think that 10 position is there waiting for him. There is a lot of competition in those areas, which makes me comfortable that he can play in a couple of different positions. But I truly think in terms of the next 2-3 years, Xavi Simons is going to be a huge pillar that we build upon in terms of the creativity, how that midfield functions, how that midfield flows. We need big characters and we need big personalities to come in now that the likes of Son, Kane, all of those guys have all gone, the Pochettino years. New characters need to step up and take the place. And when I look at these pillars right there, they are all the guys that I look at and think, you know what? I can see you lot playing huge roles for the next 3 or 4 years. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Those are the 4 pillars of this club, in my opinion. If you think different, let me know in the comments below. I've gone for Romero, Van der Ven, Pedro Porro, and Xavi Simons. Now, let's plug in a couple of regulars, shall we? And I think the easy one to go in, of course, Guillermo Vicario going in goal. Listen, he's going to start week in, week out. I would like to see Kinski, who I'm actually going to put in the fillers as well right now. I would like to see Kinski at some point be given an opportunity, I'll be honest with you. I think just to light that fire under Vicario's backside a little bit. I feel like in January, when Kinski came in, thrown in the deep end versus Liverpool, and he swam. He did really well. I think in terms of his distribution, he is miles ahead of Vicario, in my opinion. However, Vicario is a good goalkeeper. Let's not deny that. But I think the one issue I have with him is there always seems to be a lapse in concentration, an error almost waiting to happen once every 3 games, dare I say, and it always turns out to be costly. So for me, I think when Kinski came in and dropped that little purple patch of form in January, we probably saw the best Vicario I've seen at this club in that second half of the season and during that Europa League run. Could we do that again this season? I would like to see that personally, but I think it's a given that he will be the starter and Kinski will be the replacement. Now, looking at some more regulars, I think Destiny Udogie is an easy one to put in there as well. I think for me, you saw last week what he was able to provide in that Wolves game. I think he could be one of the best left backs in the world. I do think, though, in terms of consistency, he has lacked a little bit and fell a little bit short of my expectations that I thought what he would be by now. I thought he would have developed his end product a little bit more. However, I do think in terms of what he provides physically down that left-hand side, I think defensively as well, I think he's very underrated. I really, really like the makeup of Destiny Udogie. He's just someone who I think needs a little bit of fine-tuning to his game in the final third. And he could be a serious left back for the future. But still very young, still got time on his side. So I'm definitely not giving up hope. Next up, I am going to go... Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is an easy one as well. Dejan Kulusevski. Listen, we all know he's out injured. We've all seen the bleeding knee on his Instagram. It's going to be a couple months before we see him again. However, the one thing I know with Kulusevski, quality is guaranteed. I know exactly what I'm getting with Kulusevski. Whether that's playing on the right wing, whether that's playing on the 10, whether that's playing in a deeper rate position, this guy is going to give you everything. And the one thing he's been able to give us is consistency. Especially over the last maybe year or so, 18 months I would look at. I've really been kind of proud of the player that he's become. And he strikes me as one of those players that wants to become a leader in this dressing room. It's just a shame that now, obviously, he's not able to start this new reign under Thomas Frank. Because I think he could have been massive for us. But I think when he comes back, he's going to be playing with a bit of vengeance, I feel like. A bit of, pride to remind everyone what he's really made of. And I love Kulusevski. I think he's going to play a huge role for us in a couple of different positions. Can't wait to see him back. You know what? I will throw his Swedish teammate Lucas Bergvall alongside him in there as well because, and some of you might think he's maybe more of a filler. I see him as more of a regular. I'll be honest with you. I think last season when he came in, everyone looked at him after the RZ game. I remember in particular was thinking, is he too raw? Is he still, is he still a puppy? And I thought, too soon. Why are we writing him off so quickly? I think the way he matured over the season, the end of the year he finished Spurs' player of the season. I think that speaks for itself. the way he matured physically, technically, I think he is on another level to guys his age. Sometimes I got to remind and pinch myself that he's 18. It's actually absurd how technically good he is. But for me, I think physically is where he surprised me more. His ability to hang in those kind of big physical clashes. I've seen him mowing guys down. And I'm like, hold on, brother. You are a grown man in a boy's body. And I love to see it, honestly. When a young player has that kind of hunger and drive to go with the kind of technical ability, you can go very, very far. And I look at Bergwijn and I'm like, bro, this kid is going to be our future. And I think by the end of the season, he is going to be almost undroppable. You can see the way he's already started this season. Unbelievable, honestly. But I do think this season there will be a bit of rotation between him and this next guy, Pape Sarr, who I will be putting in the regulars as well. Because another one who's started this season very brilliantly. And I've always looked at him as like the jack of all trades, but the master of none. But I weirdly look at Thomas Frank as well and think he loves those types of midfielders. The Janelts, the Norgards, the Jensens, the guys who can do a little bit of everything. And I look at Pape Sarr, and this season we've seen him playing the 10. I think him and Bergwijn will probably rotate as the 2 8s. However, you will be seeing both of them play significant minutes to the point where I almost don't know which one I want to start. But two different types of midfielders. I feel like Bergwijn's a little bit more technical. Sarr's a little bit more physical and gives you a bit more legs to get up and down. However, I think both have huge upside potential. I think both are incredible talents. And I can't wait to see how they progress this season under Thomas Frank, personally. Another one that I will put in the regular as well. And some people might not want to, but I think Palhinha, he's already shown kind of how important he's going to be. He's already got 3 goals from defensive midfield, which is weird because I didn't expect him to be contributing goals. But you see him as the primary screener, the primary game breaker in front of that back 4. And I think that's an area that in the summer we did kind of need to address, because we've got guys who in that position haven't really made a stake for that position, haven't really made a claim, a strong claim to say, you know what, I'm going to be the guy there. So Palhinha, this summer, he's come in, he's been given the opportunity, and seems like he's going to be given the reins, essentially, for the rest of the season. And it's a case of just basically chopping and changing who's going to be the guy next to him. But I'm pretty content with that, because I think in terms of pure defensive ability, you'll find very, very few defensive midfielders in the world, in my opinion, who are better than him as a screener in front of the back 4. Now, when you ask him to build out from the back, that's where maybe you see the limitations to his game and you think, you know what, could we maybe use a Bentancur? Could we maybe use an Archie Gray? Could we maybe use a Sarr and Bergwijn double pivot? That is something I would love to see explored at some point this season, because we did see Bergwijn playing a deeper role at one point last year. But I do think Palhinha will be playing a lot of minutes this season. Now, moving on to another regular, I feel Mohamed Kudus. We've already seen pretty much the second he walked in through that door, he's taken out right wing position off of Brennan Johnson, who was our top goal scorer last year, scored our Europa League winner, but he's been scraping minutes off the bench and playing left wing at times to get into this team. So Mohamed Kudus, for me, I think is a special player as well. I think his ability, his technical ability, his aggression that he plays with, his 1v1 ability is something to behold, in my opinion. And we're going to see a lot more of that this season. The one thing I hope he does refine is his end product, because I do feel like he can be very hit and miss. And this is one of the things that I think West Ham fans will probably say, yeah, we told you so, we told you so. And early doors, I think even Spurs fans, we've seen it. He can beat 2 or 3 man, but then the final ball might not be there, or the finish might not be there. And I hope that is something that Thomas Frank can coach into him. And I also think that's something with his age as well, he should be able to develop and progress over time. But I think he can play a couple of different positions as well. When Kulusevski comes back, when Maddison come back, it'll be interesting to see what the makeup of that attacking midfield area looks like, because you've got Simmons, you've got Kudus, you've got Maddison, you've got Kulusevski. I think you could potentially see Kulusevski or a Kudus potentially playing left wing as well, and that is something we haven't seen before. So, interesting player. I think he's come in so far. He's done really, really well. He's made that position his own, and he's going to be a regular for the rest of the season, in my opinion. You know what? We're going to move on to the fillers now. And we've already put Kinski in there, but I feel like the first player I do want to put in there is Jed Spence, who I feel like pretty much personifies the filler role in terms of Pedro Porro's out, Jed Spence comes in. Udogie needs a rest, Jed Spence comes in. Whichever way it is, right back, left back, he is covering both positions. And I think that might be one of the reasons why we didn't even go out and sign an extra left back this summer, because Jed Spence can cover both positions. Now, I do think there are limitations on his game in terms of final ball, I feel like. Because driving up and carrying the ball, I think he's excellent. His speed, you'll find very few players that are quicker than him in this Tottenham Hotspur team. Maybe Mickey van der Ven. But he is a very lightning quick fullback. However, I do think when he does play left back and you have two right footers on the left-hand side, it can make us a little bit more narrow. So I do prefer seeing him on the right-hand side. And that final ball, that crossing, that pass, I do think needs a little bit more polishing. Outside of that, though, I think 1v1 defending, bro, kid's opened up his own penitentiary. I think that speaks for itself. And by the end of this season, I will not be surprised if he is knocking on that regular's door and saying, you know what, Destiny or Poro, one of you basically got to take a seat on the bench, because there is no way I'm getting dropped. And that's how it felt like. For 2.5 years, he never got a sniff into the first team. Conte didn't even claim him as his own signing. Ange loaned him out to Genoa straight away. And even when he came back the first 2 or 3 months, I don't really think he got much of a look in. But once he touched the pitch, once he got an actual opportunity, he never looked backwards. And I always was worried that it might have been a purple patch. It might have been a good moment that he was going through. But one thing he has shown me, he's taken it to international stage. He's taken it to Europe. He's taken it to the league. He's done it everywhere. And the fact that he's done it on both sides of the pitch as well. You know what? I've actually just convinced myself. I'm moving him to the bloody regulars, man. I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm moving him to the regulars. I'm sorry. Because he's shown himself to be a regular. He's played enough minutes for me. Similarly, like I was saying with Sarr and Bergvall, is I know some games you'll see them on the bench, but you know for a fact you can call up on that guy and say, you know what, I trust you in the first team. So, I'm moving you there. So, next up, we have James Maddison. And James Maddison, do you know what? I feel like it's so easy to throw him in the regulars, but my fear is that he is actually going to be the one impacted by all of that movement in the attacking midfield area with the likes of Kudus, with Kulusevski coming back from injury. I feel like you've got Xavi Simons there as well. You've got the wingers with Odebert, Tell, so many options in those areas. I think he could be one of those impacted. And I wonder, could we maybe see a bit of a role change for Maddison this season where he maybe drops into a deeper 8 role? And I know maybe physically some people will say, can he really do it? Can he mix it about defensively? I just worry about whether he will be playing as regularly as he has in previous seasons. And I think, listen, you haven't been able to rely on him purely because of his injury record. Because in terms of quality, I think last season, very much overlooked. I think whenever he was available, he was always quality in my opinion. And I think he always has provided value when he has been fit. For me, he's arguably one of the most creative players in this team. And has always been one of the more senior leaders in this team as well. So I don't think there'll be as big a role for him this season. However, I still think he has a huge part to play. And especially with the cup competitions that we're going to be in, you still need quality players who are going to make the difference when you do rotate the squad in and out. And I think he could be one of those impactors. So he could be going from someone who is considered a regular to, I would feel like a filler, but is almost blurring the lines a little bit and being almost too good to be a filler, if that makes sense. But I think this is the one good thing about Tottenham this season and the summer that we have had. You do have now strength and depth, and there are going to be players and positions that might chop and change, and maybe for 2 months he's a starter, maybe for 3 months he's on bench. And I feel like Maddison could fall into that kind of rotational amongst those attacking midfielders. So we'll see how that one plays out. Next up, we have Rodrigo Bentancur, who I think is, I'm going to put in the fillers. Obviously just signed a new contract as well, but for me, I've kind of gone off Bentancur a little bit, and I think it's because of the lack of progression we've seen over the last couple of years. Similarly, like you can say with so many other players in this team, injuries have affected him massively and haven't allowed him to really string that consistency together. But I do think he is a quality player on his day. The question is, how many on his days are you actually going to get? Because as good as he can be, he can also be very reckless and rash. And I think we saw that midweek in Champions League was a prime example of that. Needless slide tackle in a needless area, but because he's so diehard and front foot, and trust me, as a player who plays like that myself, I understand sometimes you want to throw yourself into those tackles. But there's a time and a place for it. And I would like to think as you get older, you become more mature in understanding those situations. And I haven't seen that kind of maturity from Bentancur. You still see that same level of rashness and kind of indecisiveness. And that double pivot of him and Palhinha hasn't really moved me this season. So if there was one I was to drop of the two, I think I'd probably drop Bentancur and leave Palhinha out there as the pure screener. And then next to him, I would have a Pape Sarr or a Bergvall who can offer me more going forward, can offer me more on the ball, but can also offer me something defensively in front of that back four as well. So Rodrigo Bentancur, new contract now, which I think probably protects it as an asset, but I think comfortably as a filler. I think Kevin Danso as well, similarly as a filler. We see him coming on last 10, 15 minutes in games and, you know, just to shore up the back and secure the result. But not likely to ever start ahead of Mickey van der Ven and Romero, in my opinion. Similarly with Odobert, young player, last season, massive spells out with injury. You feel like this season he's been given a couple of chances and he's looked decent, but I question whether he's got that physicality and that explosiveness on the wing to really, really make an impact. I think technically he's very good. Great dribbler, good little feet. However, I just worry about that explosiveness and that kind of physicality. Is he a little bit too small for that wing position? Kind of similarly to Brian Gill. We remember Brian Gill being a great technical player, great dribbler. However, you worried about him physically and you never saw any manager really trust him and give him that reign. And I worry it could be the same case for Odobert, I'll be honest with you. Brennan Johnson, my friend, thank you for Bilbao. We will never forget that goal. Thank you for last season, brother. It was a season of redemption for you. Top goal scorer. Some people might not like the way he plays, might not like the way he looks, but you're going to have to embrace that he has a role to play in this squad. It's been a good career arc for him in terms of when he joined in initially for 45 million. I don't think anybody was too much of a fan of him, and he really struggled in that first season despite popping up with a few goals. I think last season we saw him kind of show his value. We saw him really cement his place in this team, in my opinion, and I don't think with the quality that we have in those areas now, he's almost like a guaranteed lock-on to start. However, I do think he does have a massive role to play and can take advantage of those tired legs late in games. Last 10, 15, 20 minutes, last thing you want to see is a fresh Brennan Johnson running in with his movement, with his ability to read space, with his speed. That can be a problem. So for me, I think I'm very, very comfortable with putting him in the fillers. Archie Gray. Another boy I'm going to put in the fillers as well, and I hope he gets a lot more opportunities this season. I know it was only 8 minutes what we saw midweek in the cameo, but I really loved what I saw. And technically, I think he's very good. Defensively and physically, I think he gets underrated. Similarly like Bergvall, they're seen as these slight, slender teenagers, when in actual fact, I think he's actually more mature than people take him on to be. And I can see a development in him. I hope Frank uses him a lot more in midfield this season. I know last season we saw him play left back, right back, centre back, and in some games he looked good, some games he didn't look good, and I felt like it was harsh to judge him on that. This season though, moving into that midfield area, I need to see that, because for me, we spent 30 million on him. Quality midfielder, I think, has huge upside. People are talking about him potentially playing for England one day by the next World Cup, and I'm like, it doesn't look like we're doing much to help him get there. So I really like the fact that he had a nice little cameo midweek, but I really hope we see him given more opportunities in that midfield. As I said, guys like Bentancur, for me, I feel like they've been given as many chances as possible. Guys like Bissouma completely out of the picture now. Palhinha has come in and he's on loan. But Archie Gray, we've got him there. Please, let's not forget him and let's develop him. In terms of the fillers, I think that is actually it. I am now going to move on to the room to improve. And I think if there's one player that for me defines this area, it's Dominic Solanke. I feel like Dominic Solanke last season, 8 league goals, not good enough for me. And listen, I love the hold-up play. I love the link-up play, the passing, which I didn't even know he had in his locker. I think he has all the tools in his toolbox to be a top-tier striker. However, I worry that he lacks the killer instinct. And I think last season, that was it for me. It was, I saw the link-up play, I saw the technical ability, but I didn't see him in those dangerous positions. I didn't see him picking up loose, scrappy seconds. And that's where I feel like a lot of strikers can pick up easy goals from. And this season, of course, he started off injured. So we don't really know what is happening with this centre-forward position. And you know what? In actual fact, I'm going to put Kolo Muani in there. I'm going to put Matthias Tel in there because I feel like this number 9 position is going to be a grey cloud for us this season. Whether it's just going to be dry and we survive, or whether it's going to piss down and pour on us, I don't know. Because you've got Dominic Solanke, who scored 19 goals at Bournemouth the season before he signed for us. We thought we were going to get that same striker. We haven't really. And I would like to think that striker is still in there somewhere and Thomas Frank can get that out of him. Obviously, you haven't seen how Thomas Frank worked with Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins, Brian Mbemba, Wissa. The way he was able to improve him. I want to see those same improvements in Solanke. Randall Kolo Muani, he's come in. I don't know what to expect from him. Because last season, second half of the year, he went to Juve and actually redeemed himself. So my question to him would be, can you improve that? Can you continue that kind of and build on that? Can you come in here and light the fire under Solanke's ass and let him know, hey, there's a new sheriff in town? Can you take Matthias Tel, your French colleague, under your wing and say, hey, brother, this is how you play the centre forward position? That's my challenge to you, Kolo Muani. There is no real much pressure on you. There is no obligation to buy. There is no mandatory fee. There's no nothing. You're just here for a loan. You're here to have a good time. So please, just help these other men improve or set a standard for these men to catch up to. And Matthias Tel, I think if we're talking about room to improve, he might have the most room to improve in my opinion, because since breaking through at Rennes, signing for Bayern, I think all that everybody has talked about is the potential of this kid. I think even in the France under-21s, you see him and Odebert linking up and you're thinking, wow, he could be a special player someday. However, in his club career to date, he hasn't been given that opportunity, I feel like. He hasn't been given that run-in for a period of time. A manager who's fully got behind him and said, go and own that number 9 position. Go and own that left wing position. And to be honest, I still don't even know what his best position is. So he needs to figure that out. He needs to figure out where his best game is, how to get the best out of himself, and what Thomas Frank can do to help him as well. Because I think he's going to need a lot of help this season, in my opinion. I think you can already see he's not high on confidence. We saw him start against West Ham, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. He was kind of anonymous, I'll be honest with you. And it disappointed me because he is someone who I thought would have a breakout year this year. Having had the 6 months that he had, he showed glimpses in that. But I think there's still a player in there. And I really hope one of these three can step up and give me 15 goals. Because I don't know about you lot, but can any of you lot confidently say that any of these guys will score over 15 league goals this season? I don't think so. I can't sit here confidently and say it. I hope so. I wish for it, but I don't know. But if they can't, I hope there is some kind of collaboration, you know what I mean, that where we hit those numbers. Please, guys. Just don't let it be 555. We're coming to the clear out now. And I'm going to show you the clear out. We have Pruman. We have Yves Bissouma. We have Radu Dragusin. We have Ben Davis. Now, all 4 on this clear out for 4 different reasons. Ben Davis, thank you for your service, sir. Thank you for bringing the Welsh Mafia. Thank you for being Sonny's best friend all these years. But your services are no longer required. I'll be honest with you. I think we only kept him on this summer. I was actually surprised to see him stay on beyond the summer because maybe bodies at the back. You know you've got Jed Spence who can cover both positions. However, if something does happen to one of those fullbacks, you're really light on numbers in those areas. So I think just to have the extra body, they kept him there. Radu Dragusin, I think, look, when he initially came in, I think everybody was kind of hopeful because Romero and Van der Ven were both out, and it was like, hey, look, we're going to throw you in the deep end. We hope you can, show us something. And did he show us something? And it was his cheeks. Because, brother, this guy is not good enough. I'm sorry. And I think in terms of duel winning, the primary things that you need as a defender, he's decent. However, on the ball, I think shocking. I think sometimes as well, if he doesn't have a reliable centre-back next to him who's kind of guiding him, he could be a bit of a loose cannon. So for me, I don't think Dragusin is of the quality. And I look at Danso, I look at Romero, I look at Van der Ven, and I see them all as better. And then I see the youngster in Vukcevic, who's coming up as well. I see what he's doing at Hamburg. We can cash in on Dragusin, in my opinion. And it's the same thing with Yves Bissouma. Yves Bissouma, even worse case, I would say, because he has been given ample opportunity. And I feel like the only time we saw the real Basuma was those first 10 games under Ange Postecoglou. And in the second he decided to get himself sent off in that Luton game, I don't think we've seen Yves Bissouma again. Maybe for 1 or 2 Europa League games in that run. But he has been so underwhelming, so poor, in my opinion, compared to what we thought we were going to get. We thought we got the next Caicedo when we got him. You got to remember what he was at Brighton. Before Caicedo was Bissouma. And we got him and thinking 25 mil as well. What? Bargain. This is our defensive midfielder for the next 5 years. I think he's had more off-field drama than he has on-field successes. So for me, Bissouma is high time you go. I think Richarlison is very obvious how I felt about him on this channel. And it's never a personal thing. I just don't think he's of the caliber. I think similarly like Yves Bissouma, he's been given ample opportunity in the number 9 position across that front line, and he's never really taken it. He's shown in flashes and spells what he can do, and he seems to have a die-hard core fan base amongst the fan base, similar like Lucas Moura and Lamela. I don't know what it is with this fan base, but they seem to have fallen in love with these try-hard players who aren't very good. And Richarlison, Bissouma, Dragusin, I look at those 3 and I'm like, those are 3 assets we can cash in on. Get me 25 mil for each of them. I will be over the moon with that. So, look, that is my ranking. That is my tier list. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's just go through it one last time. The pillars: Romero, Van de Ven, Pedro Porro, and Xavi Simons. The regulars: Vicario, Udogi, Kulusevski, Bergvall, Pape Sarr, João Palhinha, Kudus, and Jed Spence. And then you've got the fillers in Kinski, James Maddison, surprise one there, Brennan Johnson, Benson Court, Archie Gray, Kevin Danso, and Wilson Odebert. And then the room to improve, I've put essentially all our centre forwards on there, in Dominic Solanke, Kolo Muani, and Matthias Tell. And then to clear out, I've gone Richarlison, Yves Bissouma, and Dragusin, along with Ben Davis. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. I really, really, really enjoy doing these types of videos, so there will be plenty more coming across the international break as well. I do have a few more interesting ones lined up, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think I've ranked players too high? Do you think I've ranked players too low? Let me know what you think. I will catch you guys on the next video. Till next time, people, take care.